More landlords explain the problems they had with garbage tenants and why they chose not to renew their leases. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have another day of the same interesting topic that I've been covering for the last 2 days, and that's the reasons why landlords are not renewing the leases of their tenants, okay? Now, as I mentioned before, there are a lot of reasons why a landlord wouldn't do this, and a lot of it has to do with the behavior of the tenants themselves. And, you know, if there is a toxic relationship between the landlord and the tenant, it doesn't matter if, you know, it's the landlord's fault or it's the tenant's fault. The best thing would be to end that relationship as quickly as possible so you can get out of each other's hair. That's my personal opinion, okay? Why would you want to continue to rent from a person who you don't get along with? That makes no sense whatsoever. Yet I hear all these stories about, well, I don't know why this landlord is moving to, not renew my lease or moving to, try to get rid of me. And it's like, well, you despise your landlord. You drive your landlord nuts. You think your landlord is doing a crappy job, and yet, you sit there, you complain all the time, you cause all sorts of problems, and you think that the landlord would want you to stay? What's wrong with you? It blows my mind. But, I got some more interesting stories from the comments section, right? And so I'm going to be reading those stories today, just like I did yesterday. And you know what? I like reading these stories, and I ask that people continue to send me them. So before I get into the stories, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. First of all, do you like this format? I'm going to get back into news stories here. It's a little bit slow news time right now, which is part of the reason why I'm reading these stories from the comments section, right? But, I'd like to incorporate more of this. I love hearing stories from other landlords about the experiences they've had. And, it is a lot more similar to the things that I've gone through than I even expected, okay? Like, it seems like we have a very common shared, path that we go through. We seem to deal with a lot of the same people, a lot of the same problems. And, it's good to form the sort of community where, you don't feel like, hey, you're the only one going through this bad stuff right now. And I don't want to discourage people from becoming landlords, because no matter what, I still do believe that being a landlord is a good thing, okay? It is good for society. It's good for you and your finances. It's a great way to make a living, right? But, I want people to have a realistic expectation of the things that can happen and the negative things that can happen as well, okay? That's why I bring up these stories. So, go ahead and send me any stories that you might be interested in sharing. I'm going to look through the comments, and I'll probably post another one of these videos in a week or so. So I'm going to start accumulating good stories to make another good video with. So anyway, let's get into the comments, because you know what, these are good stories, and I want to give you guys my opinion. So the comments, of course, they're coming from the video that I just posted yesterday, which was landlords explain why they refused to renew and evicted bad tenants, right? And if you haven't seen that video yet, go ahead and check it out, because the stories in that video were pretty good as well. But anyway, let's get into the first one we have here. So the first comment I have is coming from H. Woodist, and it says, imagine getting a call when you've just fallen asleep being told the furnace is out and your tenant is freezing. You paid to have your property fully inspected and certified, so you're up late wondering what it could be. You go to the property and inspect for yourself and see nothing wrong, but when you check the gas meter, you see an odd-looking device attached to the shutoff switch. Then it hits you like a ton of bricks. They woke me up at night and stressed me out because they failed to pay the bill. No, it's even worse than that. They forgot to transfer the gas to their name after they signed the lease. Luckily, my wife had it turned off the day the tenant signed the lease. It took them months to get around to turning it off. Problem tenants are a pain in the rear end. And yeah, and that's a very good example of a story right there. So they call this landlord to come out. Hey, the furnace isn't working. The furnace isn't working. Well, that's because the gas is turned off because you never had the gas turned over to your name. Now, like when I first get my tenants to sign their leases, right? I put, I make it very clear. I put it in the lease that the utilities have to be turned over to your name. The only reason that they are temporarily in my name is so that I could get the unit turned over and rented to the next person coming in there. And I have no intention of paying your utilities for you. And I've had tenants try, right? And just like this landlord here, I did the exact same thing. I called the utility company and said, hey, turn it off, in my name. And immediately, a lot of these utility companies aren't going to immediately go over and turn the utilities off, right? But in some cases, they do. Okay, so I can tell you a story about one of my duplexes in Kansas City, right? And the tenant never had the electricity turned over into her name, and next thing you know, I'm getting a call from the electric company, and they say, hey, somebody has illegally ran power from the next door unit in the duplex over into hers, right? And and I'm like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but this is a huge lease violation, etc., right? And so the utility company was going after her hard. I was so glad the utility company was doing this stuff for me. And, so I immediately was getting ready to file eviction on her, but fortunately she just left. She just left the unit empty, didn't even damage it, but, she was doing some shady stuff up in there. I was glad to be rid of her. So, I know what you're saying here, right? But this is the kind of stuff where, you've got tenants causing these sort of issues, right? And it is in the lease, right? But this is not necessarily a violation of not paying the rent. So, when a landlord sits there and they're like, hey, I need to get rid of a tenant, and, oh yeah, they didn't turn the utilities on in their name. Well, we might not be able to evict for that reason under these so-called just cause or good cause eviction laws, right? So, like I said, there's 1,000 good reasons why a landlord might say, hey, at the end of your lease term, we don't want you back. We don't want to continue to rent to you because you screwed up from the very get-go. But anyway, let me get into the next comment. This comment is coming from user TI7 of 1 OM3U, and it says, no longer a landlord, but my last renter paid on time and was pleasant until she moved in. Thereafter, the individual refused to follow the terms of the lease, made extreme demands, moved an out-of-prison son in without informing me before the move, and from that point further, allowed a crack party lifestyle. I know, the neighbors told me. When I did not renew the lease, she moved out a month early and demanded her deposit back. Again, the lease told how the deposit was returned. Move all trash out, leave no damage, and give me an address to mail the check to. She didn't follow any of these. Frankly, she made paying on time nothing due to the mindless, rude behavior that was her time in the property. So yeah, this is another prime example right there, okay? Moving someone in who wasn't on the original lease. So when you're renting to someone, right, you're renting to that person. I like to get the names and information of all people over the age of 18 who are going to be living inside my unit or my house, okay? That way I know who is going to be up in there. So a lot of the things that people do, and this is where the problems come in, right? You'll have somebody with a clean background, be it no problems at all or very, very minor problems. And they will move into a place and then they will get, later on, they'll move their boyfriend in who is just a straight scumbag who could never rent a place on their own. Or they'll move in, like in this story, a child who's straight out of prison, which means you probably got a felony conviction, right? And this person is a problem causer, a big, big problem causer. And on top of that, it says there, living a crack party lifestyle. Okay, so causing a lot of problems for the people in the neighborhood or for the other tenants in the building, etc. Right? And so it doesn't matter if you pay on time. You are causing huge issues, and this is a reason why landlords aren't renewing. And meanwhile, this person, they would be like, oh my, this landlord is such a jerk, and hates, and call them all the isms and all that crap, right? And never wanting to take accountability for the fact that you caused this problem by violating the terms of the lease, by doing stuff that was stupid, and you have no outside perspective of the situation. You're just the perpetual victim, and that's the way a lot of these tenants are. I'm not saying all tenants are like this, right? I'm just saying that problem tenants, bad tenants, they have a perpetual victim mentality, and that's why it makes it so difficult to be a landlord sometimes. Okay, and here's a short comment that from the same video, and it's from Real Astute Investor, and it says, I had a tenant call me a MFer the first week he moved in. He paid rent faithfully for 6 months, but I made him move instead of renewing his 6-month lease. Homie, don't play that. And this is a good comment right here. I like this one, right? Short, to the point, but someone, first week of moving in, calling you a MFer. Okay? Think about that. Is this the kind of person that you want to have to deal with for the next however many years, right? They're going to make your life a nightmare. So yeah, don't renew. Do not renew. And here's the final one I'm going to go over today, and it's by Yo Fock Phase. And it says, I bent over backwards for one tenant. They repaid me by threatening to leave if I didn't lower their rent when the pandemic occurred. I asked if they had a hardship and that I would work with them. He said no, but that he should be rewarded for continuing to pay rent, even though he didn't have to, per the law, his words. They made $250K a year and never lost employment. I chose not to renew their lease, and they were in shock for some reason. Yeah, I think people who make $250,000 a year would be surprised that for some reason a landlord doesn't want to deal with your garbage, okay? Bad attitude, it trumps a lot of things. It doesn't matter if you have a steady income. It doesn't matter if you pay on time, right? Like I said before, if we don't get along, if you and I are constantly butting heads, if I am going to bed and I'm stressed every single night because of you, it just isn't worth it. It's not worth it. And there's no shortage of good tenants out there who will treat me with respect. So anyway, these are great stories, great examples of exactly why landlords choose not to renew. And like I said, continue to send me stories. It doesn't have to be necessarily why you chose not to renew. I love hearing all stories about, bad tenants, evictions gone wrong, nightmare type scenarios, right? They are good learning examples for other landlords out there.